Romans. Paul the Apostle, as I said, my favorite. Paul the Apostle writes to the Roman church in this book. And he writes to the Roman church in this letter with two purposes in mind. One purpose was just to introduce himself to the people at the Roman church and to get them to understand the gospel as he preached. He was worried about some things that they didn't understand as far as what their position was in Christ. And he was worried about the fact that they didn't understand that the gospel was power. They didn't realize or understand the power that they had in the gospel. We talked a couple of nights ago about the gospel being power. It's the good news. It's the power, Paul tells us, unto salvation. So the young man received salvation. He had power. He was in Christ. The thing that second thing that Paul wanted to deal with in Romans was their misunderstanding and problems that they were having in the church. Because in this particular time and era, the priests could just preach according to what they understood and believed. It wasn't always necessarily what the gospel actually said. So Paul wanted to clear up some things. Paul asked several questions because he realized that people needed to know. They needed to know who needed salvation, who needed to be saved. And he addressed that. They wanted to know, what can a person do to get salvation? And he addressed that. They also wanted to know what it was, what is the source of salvation? He addressed that. And then they wanted to know what is the practical results of faith. He answered. Very simply, he answered it. So Paul, knowing that the gospel was power unto salvation, went on to clarify all of these questions that the believer had. And there's one simple answer. Just believe. If you want to know if you need salvation, just believe. If you want to know what results you get from salvation, just believe. If you believe long enough, the answer's going to come. If you want to know the source of salvation, who you believe in. If you want to know what's the results of having faith, all you have to do is believe. So what Paul did, and I'm not going to go through the whole book, but what Paul did in one particular chapter to address salvation meant a lot to me after I read it in going to this funeral today. So if you would turn, if you don't mind, to the 8th chapter of Romans, beginning at the 1st verse. One of Paul's favorite, and people say the most